top drawer, we have this little thing that says SF. That stands for silver foil. And so we keep the silver foil in here. We keep it all wrapped up. We actually have a lot of it. So in between each layer of tissue here, there's another layer of silver foil sheet. So we have a ton here. There's also more in here. There's more in here. We have more silver foil than you can shake a stick at, which is good because it's gotten more expensive, so feel free to use it. With the foil, let me go grab a pair of scissors. So with the foils, to give you guys an idea, it is very, very thin. I'll let you pass it around.
Does it matter getting fingerprints on it?
You
Grease from your
don't worry
hands
about
or-
fingerprints.
Just
And
do that?
Yep, and the foil itself is fine silver, which is why this we've had for probably 6-7 years, and it is still silver colored. There's a little bit of tarnishing to it. They make it in fine silver. They also make it in fine gold.
It'd be pretty hard to polish it if it tarnished.
So, yeah, exactly. And well, we don't worry about it tarnishing because the kiln will burn off any tarnish. So with the silver foils, there's a few things you can do. One is any of the scrapbooking stamps that punch out little patterns work really well with these. If you are using the scrapbooking stamps, what I recommend is taking a sheet of this and leaving it wrapped up in the tissue paper, because that just makes it thicker and easier to maneuver. It's actually easier to cut when it's in the tissue paper regardless. And there's plenty of sheets in here. There's a sheet between each layer. But the other thing you can sit there and go punch, 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 and get a whole bunch of little shapes that way. You can also rip off random shapes, which is as easy as it sounds, because all you really need to do is pull, and you can just rip off random shapes and start laying them down. The other thing that you can do is you can take small sharp scissors and you can cut out shapes. So, depending on how humid or unhumid it is in here, a lot of times the best way to transport these things, because they are very tiny and fragile, is I will actually just get my hands a little warm and pick it up. A lot of people will say, oh, pick them up with tweezers. I am terrible with tweezers. Tweezers are not my tool ever. So I will botch things if I use tweezers. If you are delicate with tweezers, like little fine tip tweezers, you can certainly pick things up and move them around. And what you do with said foils is make sure that whatever you're putting the foils on has some undercoat to it. So you need to have a layer of enamel down.
Why can't you do it on the metal?
It won't stick straight to the metal. It'll burn off. So, layer of clear fire down, and then I just take my brush, waiting for y'all to quit writing so you can look up and see this, and pick it up very gently, place it down where you want, and then you can...
Clear fire is agar, sorry, is it? Is clear fire the same as
Agar, yeah. So Clearfire is a different brand than Agar. Agar is the completely non-toxic one. I do this all the time. Micah uses Clearfire. We use Agar. I tell them Agar. I tell you guys Clearfire. Treat them as interchangeable.
Okay.
It's the binding agent. There's a few different names. Like there's several different binding agents. Same thing with any of like the random sheets. The other thing you can do is you can kind of crumple it up. Give texture to it.
If you leave it so that it's not not pressed all the way down, will it keep any sort of that shape? Does that make any sense?
So, like,
Or is it gonna just go?
it's gonna kind of
suck to it.
Yeah, it's gonna get sucked to it. So once you have that, you can then put a coat of enamel on top of it. You can fire it just like this. Be careful when you are firing. When you're firing just the foils, if you leave it in the kiln too long, because the foils are so thin, they can basically disappear. They can simply go and burn up. So I like putting a layer over them. Make sure that whatever layer you are putting over them is transparent. Because if it is not transparent, you will not see your foils.
And you could do sifting or wet packing.
Yep, absolutely. And this is how, like a lot of cloisonne pieces in particular, you'll see they have kind of, or enamels that you've seen have that sparkle down underneath them. You're kind of like, how on earth do you get like kind of like that sparkly look to it?
Yeah. That's
This is the sparkly look.
so you could do a whole sheet of it, basically cover the surface, and then cover it with something transparent. It would look like that was the material under it.
Absolutely,
Okay.
which is really kind of cool.
Yeah.
It is cool.
So the silver foil is really neat. Here are just like, these are like a couple of quickie examples of, this is just it under one of like a couple of the different greens. This has some blue on top of it. It didn't quite fire all the way, that example, but it gives you can see how it really kind of gives that sparkle there. And it's something where you can use it to build depth in the piece.
Yeah.
So it can go over any layer. It just needs to, whatever goes over it needs to be transparent, otherwise you aren't seeing the foil. And the other thing is also, like, as you're thinking about like building up layers, like say I've got my base layer, I put some foils down here. Once this fires, I can then add more foils on top of that, and then fire another layer and another foil on top. So you can really kind of get a lot of dimension down in there.
That's so cool.
And the foils, so the foils are really, really thin. These, if you guys have done kumbu ever, or if you see kumbu foils in the catalogs, these are thinner than the kumbu foils. The other thing is, if you go to Michael's and you see gold foil, if it is the fake gold foil, it will not work. It actually needs to be the actual metals, because there's gold foil,
Right.
or gold leaf, and that is much, much thinner than what we have here. So this stuff is pretty darn thin. They sell it, I think it ranges anywhere from like, it's like around 38 gauge or something ridiculous. 36 to 38 gauge, I think is where it is. It's too thin to actually wind up measuring over there. But Thompson's carries this. That's where we got ours from. Enamel Works Supply out in Seattle also carries it. I believe Rio carries the
What's the
foils
middle
as
one?
well. Enamel Works Supply,
Oh, yeah.
and they're out in Seattle. So we will go ahead and fire that.
Awesome.
And then the next one is the lusters. And so these three have the luster on it. You can kind of see it as we shift it around. Feel free
How
to.
do you get those spots on there? I like the spots.
So I believe that I did, there was a layer underneath it, and then I sifted a thin layer on top, and I dragged. Remember when we did dragging at the very beginning? And so I cleaned out little areas there, and then this was just real thin.
Oh, it's just thin with the dark enamel underneath.
Dark enamel underneath, and then a lighter enamel on top. And so for the luster, we have ye old bag of lusters here. I will warn you right now, the lusters get on everything. They are a very fine powder. Some of the bags have leaked. Some of the bags were shipped to us when they were leaking. So if you stick your hand in here, you'll come out looking like Goldfinger. So when you reach into this bag, I highly, highly, highly recommend wearing a glove, because
As she reaches in.
you can
Oh, yes,
see,
there, you got it. Yes.
you get it here, you get it here, you get it here.
Uh-huh.
And so we have
Summer bronze.
a bunch of different ones of these. There's a bunch of different colors. We've got reds, we've got oranges, we've got purples, we've got greens.
Are there any sample pieces in the drawer that are labeled with like this is this color?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
These, I believe, are the green pearl.
Okay.
This one is the purple. I think I'm doing the red today. But you can see already it's
What is it? What's it made of? Looks like eyeshadow.
it's
does look like eyeshadow.
kind of I don't know what it actually is, but it's these
Yeah.
really, really fine powders.
It's not bad for you. I
Love
think
the
to breathe it in. Or,
So when
Don't
So-
don't eat it.
Don't go there.
don't eat it. No, that's why I say
Don't
make
lick
sure
your
you,
fingers
Make sure you've got
after.
your gloves. These I would wear your masks when you're dealing with the
Right,
powders. How to use them? We mix them with a little bit of water. So a little bit of powder, a little bit of water. There are a couple of canisters in there. There's a couple of different colors in there, and they're actually usually labeled along the side. Maybe a little bit more than that. This one's a
I
little
never
bigger.
understand why you don't mix things with agar, because then you don't have to bother about painting it on if you mix it with agar.
Because if you mix them with agar, they dry funny.
Yeah.
So if you mix it with water, it dries back out to the powder. If you mix it with the agar, it dries lumpy and weird and can't be reconstituted. So that's why. I actually do
wash
have
your
washers.
hands?
I will after I do this. So for this, you also want to make sure you have a base coat down. And again, paint. Somebody always leaves a bottle of water here on Wednesday night, which is actually really nice for me on Thursday morning, but I kind of feel bad. And then this just gets painted on. So the thicker the mix, less water, more powder, the thicker that'll be. And obviously you can kind of go in, make designs in it.
Can you put that over the foil?
You need to have enamel before you put it over the foil. So you can put a clear over the foil and then put this over
Okay.
that. You can also come back in.
Okay, so you put a clear over the foil before you.
Yeah, the lusters need to go directly onto a surface of enamel.
Okay.
And same with the foils. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to go rest these guys on top of the kiln to dry. You want to let the water dry with this one before you go ahead and put it in the kiln. We're going to wander over there. I'm going to show you guys a cheating way to get things dry a little quicker, which will come into play